you'll find majority of the people in 12-step programs are under 5 years sober. Now, you are going to find some old timers, you will. And if they make it to 5 years, then they usually become an old timer. You know, if they make it to 5, they will, usually have some longevity in the program. I don't know what those stats are. I used to know, and I don't now. I don't. But anyway, just look around in meetings and see if you don't see a lot of people under 5 years. And then after that, they begin to kind of drop off because it's difficult to maintain sobriety or recovery over a long period of time. And then some people have a forgetter. You know, they'll get really good, clean and sober and whatever addiction they have. Life will be good. They get their wife back, they get their job back, they get their husband, if they're, whatever, they get their kids back. Life begins to be good, and sometimes it gets too good, and then they're just busy. They're just busy folks. When I worked at the Serenity House, when we'd get people in detox, people that had been through Serenity House, they were all drug addicts and alcoholics, and some of them would have 2-3 years, be really grounded in the program, and then they'd relapse. I'd go down there and talk to them, and invariably, what they would say is, well, life was so good. Life was good. They had a good job. They were going to school functions, and they had a wife, and they did this, and they went on vacation, and they did that. And all of a sudden, they quit going to meetings. And when you quit going to meetings or staying in contact, that's the deal. Staying in contact with another recovering person, and then of course the real recovery is making conscious contact with God every morning, asking Him for a day of recovery, and then thanking Him at night. And so invariably, what these guys, and it was all men, but invariably what they would say is life was so good, and I don't know what happened. And a lot of times they'd be on vacation, and everybody would be drinking, and all of a sudden they would be. So resilience is the ability to adapt to difficult situations and bounce back from setbacks. It's about bouncing back. We're all going to have setbacks. Now, it doesn't mean we have to relapse. It means setbacks. And usually families can tell when an addict is, a family member, a loved one is getting ready to relapse, because the relapse takes place way before they pick up the substance. And it's usually in behavior. They get irritable, restless, and discontented. And so it's important to stay resilient in recovery and in order to overcome challenges. And guess what? Recovery doesn't promise us that we're not going to have any problems. It doesn't. What it promises us, what the big book says, we never have to be alone again. That we're going to have problems, but we're going to find a way to go through them without using. That's the whole deal. To go through difficulties. That's what human experience is. There's breakdowns. There's breakdowns in life, and with every breakdown, there's a breakthrough. And sometimes we have to have those breakdowns in order to have a breakthrough. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do, some of the things we tell sponsorees to do are in order to stay resilient in recovery. And one of the things is regular 12-step meetings. And it still amazes me how people don't want to go to meetings. Now, the whole meeting situation has changed since COVID. People don't even have to go out of their house to go to a meeting. There's every kind of Zoom meeting. And I won't say never, but I can't remember really experiencing anybody having a relapse when they were doing these things, like going to 12-step meetings, getting with a like kind on a regular basis. And then not only that, but get involved. When I first started going, was very shy, very, very, very shy. I could not say my name. Tell Wayne to get in here and wave at me. I know he's over there. Tell him he can wave at me anyway. Good morning, friend. You could sit and watch. You may need to hear this. Who knows? Good to see both of you. So I was very shy. I couldn't say my name, and it was in fall of 1968. And when I started to meetings, Al-Anon meetings, and what I would do, I'd get there on that parking lot early, but I would wait. I'd watch people go in, and I would wait till everybody got in there, and I would go in late, and I just kind of slip in and find me a seat, hoping they didn't see me. And of course, I weighed about 260 pounds, so I was seen. And then I would like what I heard, and I'd sit there and cry for them. I mean, it would just, touch my heart and, touch my reality that that's what I was living in, the disease of alcoholism. And then that fear would come up that they might talk to me, so I'd get up and leave early. So I'd go late, leave early, and I never met anyone. And so finally this woman watched me one day and caught me at the door as I was leaving. And she said, "Why do you leave early?" Oh, I could hardly talk to her. Anyway, I think God knows what we have need of before we ever do. And this woman had come from Arizona. Her husband was transferred here in the Air Force. She was a black belt Al-Anon. She was, really grounded in the program. And she said, "Do you have a sponsor?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, now you do." So she started sponsoring me, and she helped me out of a lot of that shyness by giving me assignments to do. And by that point, I would have done anything. It still amazes me that people will go to treatment, or they'll, see individual therapists, or they'll have a sponsor and then not follow directions. I always thought you had to follow directions. But anyway, I wanted to get better, so I did. So one of the things is making connection and with other people, other recovering people. And I've made connection with people. I went to PTA, I would volunteer for, and I was shy everywhere. But we've got to get with the like kind who understand, who we can, what we're going through and all. So number 2 is start believing that opportunities are, that challenges, or I'm going to get this right, that challenges are opportunities to grow. If we didn't have challenges, if they just went all, even kill all the time, we wouldn't grow. We grow through adversity. And like I said a while ago, with every breakdown, there's a breakthrough. Now, sometimes I get tired of the breakdowns, but every time when we come through it, we look back and think, boy, that was a life lesson. And then number 3 is don't try to control something that you have no control over. accept that you can't control everything in the world, and accept that. I remember when I wrote this down, I remember years ago, probably 45 years ago, I don't know, there was a conference here, and we'd go to, over Labor Day, we'd go to this AA Al-Anon conference every year, and there was a man that spoke. He's no longer with us. He was a beloved member of the fellowship, but he was telling us a story about when he hadn't been in the program very long. He got up one morning and it had turned cold throughout the night, and they had oil heaters and the oil wouldn't come on. That made the heat not come on, and so he couldn't get any breakfast and he couldn't get any coffee, and so he left the house. Before he ever left the house that morning, he was out of sorts, because he couldn't have his morning coffee. He was a paint contractor, and so what he did, he went to the paint store to pick up paint that he had ordered. They promised him for days that it would be in on that day because he had a job going. And then on the way to the job, he had a flat. And he didn't have a spare, but someone came along and they helped him fix his tire. Anyway, he got to the house where they were working, and the crew hadn't shown up. Now, I don't know if y'all know much about painters, but a lot of painters, I'm not doing it across the board, but there's a lot of alcoholics among painters. And what he figured is that they just all got drunk the night before. So anyway, he was really put out with life. His crew hadn't shown up. There wasn't any heat in the house. Didn't have any coffee. He had a flat tire, blah, blah, blah. So he turned around and he went back home, opened the front door, walked in, and started back to the bedroom. And his wife said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, my sponsor told me this slogan, easy does it." And he said, "Everything I've touched this morning has gone backwards on me." And he said, "I'm going back to bed." So he went back to bed, stayed all day, all night, got up the next morning. Miraculously, that something had happened on that oil heater, that the oil was flowing through it. The heat was on. And then he, the tire was fixed. He had coffee. He got to the job. All the crew was there. They had picked up the paint themselves the day before. And so all was well. And that was one little slogan, easy does it. Because he said every one of those instances would have got him drunk before. So, pay attention to these things that, in AA and all the 12-step programs, that those slogans, they have. And then number 3, accept that you do not have control over everything. And if you want to stay healthy in recovery, it is about working on codependency. A lot of times, what codependency is control. I want what I want when I want it. Now, a lot of your addicts, and they don't like to hear this, not all of your addicts, alcoholics, but some of them can also have a case of codependency, and it's those control issues. So it's about accept the fact that you don't have control over everything and give it up. And then number 4, develop personal goals. Now, I don't mean great big pie in the sky goals that, there went Cecile with the laundry. I don't mean great big pie in the sky goals. I mean measurable goals, goals that you can achieve. A lot of times addicts in particular live in fantasy land. Well, someday they're going to do this, well, someday, or they wish they had it. So set some realistic goals. And And how you set a goal, you figure out what you want to do. What do you want to do? Like, what would you like to accomplish? Whether it's something around your home, repair work that needs to be done, yard work that needs to be done, or a new job, or whatever. Set a realistic goal, and then go toward that. Go toward that and do it. And don't, you can't do it all at once, but do it one step at a time. And then, number 5 is pretty much what I just got through saying, is take action. When times are hard, when you have financial problems or when you have relationships problems, I think those are the 2 problems that affect addicts more than anything. In the past, that's what I've seen, is financial problems and relationship problems. I think relationship problems can even top financial problems, because if you are in a relationship and you can come together with your partner and work through those financial problems, it'll draw you closer together. So I think relationship problems are probably one of the number one things that gets people out of recovery. And this is a good time to say, are we going to do a couples retreat in December? A little weekend?
Yes, ma'am. I was going to put it up at the end of your talk so I didn't interrupt.
Oh, okay. So, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of imago therapy. It saved my husband at our marriage. I mean, not that it was that bad. We were both in recovery. We were married 51 years, and we did the imago. Actually, I was doing the training, and he went with me. And it changed our coupleship. And I talk about, we were married 51 years, but we had 20 wonderful years of marriage after we did that imago. So anyway, we're going to be doing that in December, and that would be a good gift that you could give yourself and your partner. Because the thing about it is, if you have relationship problems, it spews out in all areas of your life. So what it means is to take action. Take action toward doing something about it. What can you do about it? One of the things that I learned is, I had a lot of anger. I mean, I'm not going to my childhood, but it was a bad one. And I picked up my father's rage, and I carried his rage. And I was one angry person. And so, until I could work through my own anger, I couldn't really have a healthy relationship with my husband. And, he had the same thing. He also had his own rage. And so we would just clash like that, and nothing ever got settled, nothing ever got completed, because we would, rage and then walk off. He'd get silent. He did the silent treatment. We call it silent violence. Silence is probably the highest form of abuse. Is one of the highest forms of abuse, where people get totally silent. And I'll tell you, that man could. Mr. Mack could get silent. He went 30 days one time without speaking to me. He'd pet the dogs, speak to the kids, talk to the neighbors, and he would ignore the hell out of me. I mean, total silence. Other time was 18 days, not that I was counting. And of course, that just made me boil more, and then it would hurt my sensitive feelings, and then that anger would come up. So in order to have a relationship, you got to get that stuff, that garbage out between you. But you got to work on your own issues first. When you bring baggage into a relationship, the baggage is right between you. And so, it takes two healthy people. And don't look at the bent finger, just look here. But anyway, it takes two healthy people standing tall, autonomous with the God of their understanding. When you can stand alone with the God of your understanding, you can stand with another person. But if you're going into a relationship to get something, if you feel like that you're not whole and complete within yourself, you're going in there to get something, hoping they will make you whole. And what that makes is a dependent relationship. And then if one pulls out, this one falls flat on their face. So, and this is what we'll be talking about some, and there'll be assignments and all that in the imago therapy. But what it is, it takes two healthy people to have a relationship, to stand tall, autonomous with the God of their understanding. And people can't put relationships together. God puts them together. That's my belief. But we have got to give him the opportunity to put it together. We do our work, and he blesses the effort. We do the work, and he blesses the effort. So, number 6 then is actively seek opportunities for personal growth. Don't get stale. We can get stuck. We can grow in an area and grow, and we think, all right, well, here I've arrived, and we never arrive. We never arrive. And so that's why it's good to seek different opportunities, things to do, places to volunteer, different, people to help, something that you enjoy doing is, but for personal growth, prayer and meditation works really well. It doesn't have to be no real long meditation. 10 minutes, 5 minutes to just be still and know that he is God. Just be still and know. Be still. Just learn to be who God uniquely made you to be. So meditation is good. Another thing that's good is doing yoga. Another thing that's good, and we hear this around the program, is to do something nice for someone else without being found out. See, it doesn't count if you want all the credit. If you have to have the credit for doing something nice, this assignment, it doesn't really count. I'm talking about if you really want to get out of yourself, do something nice for someone without being found out. And that helps helps us to get out of ourselves. Number 7 is believe in yourself, to have a belief in yourself. I worked with and I've told you all this before, but I worked with my friend Barbara Caraway from Florida. Her brother owned some treatment centers, and together with some businessmen and different people, dignitaries in the United States, they brought over a group of Russians that wanted to learn about addictions. They were wanting to put in addiction centers. So they sent psychiatrists, doctors, nurses, dietitians, counselors, police officers, you name them, they sent them. And so they went all over the United States to different treatment centers, and we were the last ones to get them. They wanted us to work with them on codependency, and we did a 5-day with these Russians down in Florida. They didn't speak much English, and we didn't speak any Russian. But what happened was the language of the heart. And I remember at the end, there was one of these Russian women that we were going around talking about maybe what they had gotten out of the week. And what she said was, I've taken a liking to myself. I love that. I've taken a liking to myself. If we don't take a liking to ourselves, how can we expect other people to like us? You know, it starts with ourselves. And I don't mean being all puffed up that you're all of that and something else. It's about taking a liking to yourself, to love who you are, and thank God, you know, by God's grace. And to believe in yourself, you know, like Bill was a master of the English language, and he used different definitions for different words. And what he said is to believe in yourself. Well, it's in step 2. To have a belief is to have a suspicion. So just have a suspicion that you're really okay within yourself, and believe in yourself. And you know, step 2 is about have a suspicion that if the program will work for others, it just might work for you. So number 8 is maintain a level head. You know, that kind of goes over into the rage that I was talking about a while ago. And it took me a long time to get past the rage, and I had to do a lot of rage work. I mean, and I thank God for the people who worked with me, the Barbara Caraways, the Pia Melodies, I mean, I could go down the list of people that helped me. And it was in the early days where very, very few people were doing any type of experiential therapy. And actually, I went to all these people for training and wound up going back for treatment because I had carried around so much rage and anger. And they showed me a way to release the anger and the shame. And so in order to maintain a level head, we have to stay right sized. We can't be, you know, way puffed up, all that and something else, or put ourselves down. We just have to stay level headed. And I learned this in Al-Anon, and once I could start, you know, getting past my own anger, what helped me so much is to learn to love the person, place, or thing that makes you angry. Think about that. Learn to love the person, place, or thing that makes you angry. If you're just so angry at someone, if you can flip that and see them through the eyes of love, because we don't know what people are carrying around. You know, we don't. We have no idea. We go out, you know, to the grocery store or here or there somewhere else. We hardly know what people are carrying around. And so, you know, it's to learn to love the person, place, or thing that makes you angry. Well, I just got to tell on myself. It's not very nice what I did, but I've got to tell you anyway. I'm going to tell on myself. Y'all probably don't do things like this. I mean, I've been in recovery a long time, and I'll tell you, I can still get a little zinger in every once in a while. Okay, so here's the picture. Misty and I were at Lowe's yesterday. Picture this, like on Golden Girls.
Abilene, 2024.
Abilene, 2024. We were at Lowe's, and I bought a couple of flowers, and there was not one soul back there in that gardening area except Misty and I. Two people. I was a customer. I was going to pay for something. So we walked up to the cash register, and there was 2 employees there. And then at the end of the counter was this guy that worked there with his hands in his pocket. They were talking, and they kept talking, and they kept talking, and they kept talking. Now, in the past, I would have probably blown up, and there was a part of me that wanted them to tell it. I wanted to tell them to take those flowers and put them where the sun doesn't shine. But I mean, we just stood there, and finally, what I did was I said, "It looks like y'all are busy." I mean, it was sideways anger, folks. I said, "It looks."
No, you said, could y'all call a checker for me?
Yes, I said, "Could y'all call a checker for me, please?" That's what I said. Could you call a checker? Because y'all are busy, or maybe you're off of work.
And they said, oh no, we're working. You said, oh, I thought y'all had clocked out.
Yeah, they said, "Well, we're working." And I said, "I thought you'd clocked out." Hello, I'm a customer. So I'm not perfect, folks, but we stood there, and instead of saying, "Will you wait on me?" I said, "Will you call a checker for me, please?"
Oh my God.
There was two of them. Anyway, at 80, almost 82, I guess I can get by with stuff like that. But anyway, so maintain a level head. In the past, I would have just cussed about and been hateful and awful and wouldn't have been able to go back in there ever because I would have embarrassed myself. So number 9, practice self-care. That's kind of what I was saying a while ago, but self-care is important, and that's physical and mental, is, for recovery. And people are working a lot, I know. I mean, and, I don't know, finances are bad, people are having problems. I mean, I guess, I don't know, I don't talk to a lot of people, but I do watch TV sometimes, I do watch the news. And by the way, have y'all heard anything about that we're gonna have a presidential election? Have y'all heard anything about it?
Oh,
My Lord have mercy, are y'all tired of hearing all those commercials and those bad things that they say to each other? It's just awful, awful. But anyway, practice self-care. Take care of yourself physically and take care of yourself mentally. Guess what? No one's going to do it for you. My grandson Spencer and his new bride Maddie live across the street from me, and they have the cutest dog. We think he's going to be big as a horse. He's a yellow lab, and he's a pup, but he just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But I watch him. I don't see him every morning. I don't stand out there and gawk through the window, but if I happen to be out there, I was out sweeping off the front porch yesterday morning, and I saw him go out, and they were, and I had seen them earlier. They went out and took the big dog, I was going to say the little dog, the dog for a walk. Then they took him back and put him up, and then they went back out for a walk. And they do that every day. Now that is dedication. And if they'll keep doing that, they're in their early 20s. If they'll keep doing that, it can prevent a lot of, old timers ailments probably, if they did it and did it on a consistent basis, which they do. But anyway, self-care. Don't y'all like how I work Spencer into nearly every one of my talks? But anyway, he's a sweet young man, and so is his new bride. All right, number 10 is the most important, is to have a spiritual practice. And it doesn't have, spiritual it's not about religion. Now, religion is dogma. It's, believing a certain way, and there's so many different ways to believe. I mean, that Bible has been interpreted many, many ways by men and women, but basically men. So, being religious doesn't always mean being spiritual. I know a lot of religious people that are not very spiritual, and vice versa. But anyway, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about if you belong to a certain church or you have a priest or a rabbi or a minister, really take use of what they have to offer. And, so if you are a regular church goer, go. I mean, because what church is getting with like kind. It's just like getting, and celebrating. That's like going to a 12-step program. But we go into church to worship God. We go to AA 12-step programs to get well from from an addiction. And I think that I know, and I'm not going to argue with anybody. I do know there's miracles that have happened in church, where people can be, the desire to drink be removed from them. But the difference in finding recovery in church and in a 12-step program is that it usually stops. They have an experience with God, and it's usually personal. Their family knows about it. Their minister will, and they become good churchgoers and work in the church. But what's missing is carrying the message to someone else. So that's my preference of getting sober in a 12-step program, because if you don't give it away, you can't keep it. And so spirituality is, I think, the biggest thing about staying clean and sober. And anyway, what else was I going to say? Like I said, the best way to get out of our self-centered self is by helping someone else. And when you are in a 12-step program, every time you walk into a meeting and you have a day of sobriety or a day of recovery, you've got something to offer a newcomer. So you're giving something away just by suiting up and showing up. And so spirituality is the nurturing and the practice of meditation, and like I said a while ago, different forms of meditation. But the main thing is making conscious contact with God every morning. I am rambling. I hope some of this has helped you, but I do know old timers that practice some of these every single solitary day. One of my dear friends died this year. I think she had 53 years of sobriety. Pat H, I think she had 52 or 53 years of sobriety. And she did the same thing. She still wrote her prayers every morning. She prayed, she talked to God, she talked to others. And so spirituality is really how we recover. All right, that's what I have. What do y'all have as far as, Jeff, you've got some time in the program. What do you do for longevity and resilience? What do you do to keep yourself?